Welcome back to the show, everyone. I have a special guest today, Mr. Jamie Maguire. How are you today, Jamie?
Very well. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Absolutely. So, Jamie, I actually believe you're the first guest not in the U.S. Uh, I didn't think about that until just now, but, well, my friend Michelle Hansen is in Denmark, but technically she's all American. So I don't know if she counts. I think you're the first fresh. Nope. I'm going to take that back. We had Lucas. He's in Germany. So no, you're first one in UK. How about that?
Yeah. Okay. I'm all in
All right.
humble.
Well, we'll give you the props where we can. Jamie, so I've been following you on Twitter for a while now, and we are having some pre-show banter, and it almost feels like you and I are living the same life, just working on as many different things as possible and trying to build in some stability, but also building all these different, quote unquote threads of income. Um, Jamie, just take a moment, introduce yourself to the audience if they don't know who you are.
Yeah. So my name's Jamie Maguire from the UK. You've just introduced me. I've been building solutions using Microsoft technology for over 20 years now, basically. In that time, I've worked for like massive organizations, startups, consultancies, and everything in between. Last 5 to 10 years been heavily involved in artificial intelligence. Last 5 to 10 years, I've been pretty active online, whether that be creating technical blog, creating YouTube tutorials, training courses on platforms such as LinkedIn, Pluralsight, Cloud Academy. And I've also been operating as a freelance or independent contractor for a few years now. In between all of that stuff, I've been shipping a few experiments, using up and coming technology. So a mixed bag, really, but predominantly within the Microsoft space.
Let's talk about just your regular day job. You said the majority of your work is as an independent contractor. Just can you talk a little bit about some of the projects you're working on? How many clients do you usually run at any given time?
So the main of the bulk of the work is using Microsoft.NET and .NET 8, building web APIs and doing a lot of upgrades really to older and mature systems and pulling them up to date with more recent technology and then creating more value with that technology to just basically optimize business processes and data and create like newer innovations. That's a massive part of what I'm doing. And then outside of that, I'm running a few SaaS experiments as well, and those are a bit AI at their heart. I'd say that's about 20% of my activities. I've got another SaaS out in the wild that was generating a little bit of revenue, but there were circumstances without my control that kind of blindsided me a little bit. So I'm throwing a few more coals into the fire and seeing what direction those go in.
I know we have a lot of topics we can cover. Let's start with the SaaS and see where the SaaS conversation takes us. So you had a SaaS that was called Social Opinion. And where did the idea for Social Opinion come from?
Oh yeah, it goes quite back. Goes back quite a bit. Basically, I had a master's degree a long time ago, right? And the specialist area was Bayesian theorem and data mining social networks. And what I ended up building was an API that I could point at streams of data and infer entities, topics, opinion mining. And this was before APIs and AI were available to be pulled off the shelves. So there was a lot of grunt work really involved in building that. And that effectively turned into a product. Okay. What used to be known as Twitter ran a bunch of initiatives. I pitched it to them, and was basically part of a program that they ran. It morphed a little bit into ad tech. So what the solution could do, it would help identify sales leads in near real time. Then you could target the right person at the right time with the right marketing creative. That iteration never went anywhere. And then as time went on, a new set of APIs were released and developed, and started to focus on analytics, right? And that started to bear a little bit of fruit, but I just couldn't scale that. There wasn't enough room for me up at the table. I couldn't afford the data retention capabilities that were needed. And more recently, as a result of the recent takeover, I had to pivot it again and basically carve out a lot of the heart of the tooling in Jet Content Scheduler. And that is its heart right now. It's now a cross-platform content scheduler that targets Facebook, Instagram for business, and LinkedIn. So you write your content once and it gets pushed out onto all these other platforms in a single click.
You said it was pretty focused on Twitter, and then Mr. Elon Musk comes around and takes it over, and I would say effectively killed the platform for anyone outside of Twitter. How did that affect you with your product?
I had some decisions to make. I fortunately never bet the house on the tooling. I thought, right, this would be 20% of my attention. I guess the whole Pareto principle thing. I had 80% of the income coming through from a stable contract. And then I had all these other things on the boil. And when that happened, it started to get less and less of my attention. I shut down the free tier. I started to close down like many of the back-end processes and jobs that generated analytic, the follower database, a lot of the entity detection. There's the whole load of stuff that I just had to switch off, right? And at the time, the only way that you could get or maintain that level of service was to pay, I think, 40 grand a month. So that was not viable. It's since changed, and I think you can pay about $5,000 a month. But by that point, my attention had moved on to other areas, namely those other two micro SaaS experiments that I've got running in the wild just now.
So we were talking a little bit just about general platform risk, and you go heavy into a platform, so Twitter in this case, but were you supporting you said other platforms like LinkedIn and others, were you supporting those at all, or they just weren't as heavy as the Twitter aspect of it?
I've made a little bit of an inroad into analytics for Instagram for business accounts. And you know what, man, like after going through all that pain with the Twitter experience, I never had enough fuel in the tank to build out another analytics capability for another platform. Because I've got to tell you, man, the Meta family of products, the application review process is lengthy. There are many checks that you have to go through to get your application published into production. I got to a point where I'd never had the capacity, so I started to outsource the development and management of that integrate some of those integration pieces and the application review process. Okay, I just never had the capacity, and for anybody that's listening, if you can get to a point where you can outsource, do it. Just do it. There's no glory in doing everything yourself. Right. It wasn't always like that. I couldn't always outsource, and it was only like a few times a year. But I just thought I'd share that.
What's the easiest thing for you to outsource?
It was hard at first, but because I come from a technical background, providing that I've got enough detail in the story, it's easy for me to screen out other developers who might on maybe a freelancing platform like Upwork or freelancer.com and share the story and say, hey, and then I'll ask a few targeted questions and I just get a feel, as well as I do that.
Yeah.
You can sniff out who knows their onions and who doesn't. So the development, I'm bad at marketing. I'm not a marketer. So I outsourced the site used to have a blog. So I onboarded a freelance writer for a few months, just to create some content. I had mixed, how can I say, mixed success with that. And I wasn't measuring the right metrics. There's a lot of stuff that I could have done better, which is a lesson learned for me, actually.
I hear that from a lot of folks, especially developers trying to go into SaaS. We have to learn a whole set of skills that we never thought we would have to learn. Just marketing, business administration, learning how to collect metrics. And I think we just want to write code. Like, we just want to build cool things, and we want people to pay us for it. So difficult to go do all the other work.
Yeah.
And you're just one of many developer friends I have that run a SaaS of some point, and they're like, oh, I need to take a week off and just do marketing and write blog posts and build content. And no one enjoys that. So,
wow. Well, sorry, go on.
When you outsource it, you said it was kind of a mixed bag. That's probably another thing that's difficult, is you need to find someone who can speak in the voice that you want them to speak in. That's a hard thing to outsource, because not everyone is good at that sort of task. You have to find the right person.
100%. And it's, it was very difficult. It was very difficult. And I've heard, just to pull out some of the other stuff that you mentioned earlier, was that people being from a technical background but really struggling with the marketing aspect. I've seen initiatives like Building in Public, or what's been really successful for other guys and women is to do 1 week coding, 1 week marketing, 1 week coding. And I think if you're from a technical background, it's hard to measure success, the success of your marketing efforts. With code, you're getting that instant feedback loop, right? You're just pretty, it's pretty quick. But the marketing for me it was like a slow burning thing. And I had another idea, which was to effectively give away 25 to 30% of the internal API in the form of an open source SDK and push that onto GitHub, and you get, all right. So I was kind of tentative about doing that, right? But when I'd done it, it got a little bit of traction. People actually started to contribute to the open source SDK. And I think the last time that I checked, it had been downloaded like 13 or 14,000 times. There's a little bit at the back of my mind. It's like, maybe I could have commercialized that. Right. So that was another form of marketing in a roundabout sort of way.
Social opinion pretty much is on the back burner now. It's not a thing you're spinning cycles on. You have 2 new ideas that you're working on. Let's talk about, I guess, the first one, Daily Tracker.
So
is that a good one to move on to? Or?
It is. So Daily Tracker was just an idea. When I've got 2 sons, right? So, and my youngest, he always says the funniest of things when we're out and about, like many other kids do it. And it was just an idea that came to me, was to have like my own private sort of like, I get journal, but that I could access over my phone and just record a memory for that day. So at the end of 365 days, I would have like a memory for each day and a picture for each day with a few sentences, right? And I teased on that idea for a little bit longer. And I thought, well, actually, this could be used to monitor maybe your mindset and mood and mental health. And I thought about that and I was like, well, okay, I started to build this thing out. I built it super quick. I built it like in about a week, right? And actually I built it in public, the form of marketing again, but it's on my blog. There's many blogs that show how this thing got built, literally from like the scraps of HTML and JavaScript right to the SaaS product. And what it does is it helps you quickly identify what's affecting your mood, who's affecting your mood, where you were, because it uses Azure Map, pinpoint the location, and your key, an entry for the day, attach a picture, attach your mood using 3 emojis in your location if you want. And it's got rich charting capabilities that basically help you click into what was making you happy, what was making you sad, and making you feel indifferent. And you can look back over the year, or the month, or 90 days. And that's basically what it does.
You go into an idea like that thinking about how to monetize it, or is this more a let's see how well it works for me, and then maybe I can make money off of it if I try? Or is that even a concern?
You know what? It wasn't a concern. It wasn't. It was going to be the original version ran on JSON files, right? It literally ran off the C drive on my laptop. Just here each morning from the day before, and it literally sat there, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm actually using it. Okay, so on social media, but I don't want pictures of my kids on social all the time. I just don't. And it'd be a good thing to look back on because they grew up so quick, right? What were you doing? And so the initial intent wasn't to monetize it. And I thought, well, actually, if I'm getting a little bit of use out of this, with many other parents out there, I'm going to ship this thing. I'm going to give it away for free. I already know how to do the straight integration, but I wanted to build the bare minimum feature or set of features. I didn't even want to integrate the straight payment because it's like more stuff to handle. The webhook, the transactions. I need to then really consider how the subscriptions are handled. So it wasn't so much of a concern, a priority. In the first few weeks, about 30 people signed up. It cost me less than $50 a month to run.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super cheap. I'm running it on, the interface is super light. The backend, there's one Azure function, it's very lightweight, and that was the way it was supposed to be. If it reaches some kind of critical mass, then I will retrofit the Stripe thing into it.
Yeah, see how people use it. See if you build that critical mass. I don't see any problem with that at all. Yeah, I mean, the best thing to come out of it is you scratched your own itch. You're doing something for yourself that you thought it would be useful, and now you can potentially be useful for other people. And that's contrary to what you'll hear a lot of folks say is you should do the market research. You should talk to your potential customers. Don't build anything until you've talked to 100 people that might pay you money. And here you are, you built something that's useful for you. And I think there's a lot of value in that, even if it doesn't ever make you any money in the future.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've learned a ton of skills as well along the way.
Hey, and that's the other thing, right? Like, yeah, it may get monetized at one point. That wasn't the sole motivator, but what came out the other end of that whole process was a massive bunch of learning. And people who want to ship SaaS using Microsoft Azure and .NET, they can go through that 7-part series and see what it takes to go from building a little prototype that ran in JSON files right over to the other end of publishing it into Azure, down to registering the custom domain and integrating identity and the playbooks there, right? And like, this is very meta, right? But it marketed me, right? So,
yeah,
right. And to tease that out a little bit more, like, another prototype actually landed me a consulting gig, right? Which was a commercial arrangement. So you see, there's sometimes, like, by shipping stuff out into the world, there's like second and third order effect that can occur. But I just sort of share that.
My friend Aaron Francis says this all the time, that whenever you're putting stuff out in public, you're just increasing your luck surface area. Because you're absolutely right. You just put something out there, the right set of eyes see it, and they go, I know the guy. I'll just call Jamie, and Jamie can help me with this. I already know Jamie can do it because Jamie wrote a 6-part series on doing it. I'm going to admit, I've got at least a dozen consulting engagements myself for that same reason, just putting something out there. And someone goes, hey, I read your article on whatever, and will you do a consulting gig with me? Sure. It might be one day of consulting. I have a couple that have gone for 10 years. Like they just keep coming back for more.
Love it.
You never know.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. I love it.
All right. So daily tracker. And then you have another one called audio notes.
Yeah. So there's another one called audio note. And in essence, audio notes lets you create concise notes from the spoken word. What do I mean by that? Well, you can take your cell phone, click it open, and then log in, access the website, press record, and start basically dumping your thought using your voice. We'll transcribe your voice using speech to text, and then AI will then summarize the content of what you said and create a concise note from your spoken thoughts. So what you can then do, then it'll save them. So you get a series of tiles with all your audio note. You might be like on a walk or whatever, dictating a blog post, a draft or a document, an email or social media content or something. And then, because inspiration can strike you anywhere.
Yeah.
Get back to your laptop, you've got this summarization, and then you can repurpose that content into whichever channel you want. And that's it. It's got that one feature, and that's what it does. It may get more in future. Admittedly, I'm using Daily Tracker more than I use Audio Note. But yeah, that's what it does.
Yeah, I love that idea because I have talked through entire blog posts. I've outlined presentations in the car and just talking to myself, trying to talk through ideas, and having something recording and then summarizing all that for me would be, in my opinion, really beneficial. I'll have to get a link from you when we're done, because
Of course,
I would love to try it. One of the things I do at the end of every day is I summarize what I was working on, because trying to get my mind back into the context it was in the day before easily takes me an hour. And when I started writing notes to myself. I call it notes to future Kevin. And I'll come in the next day, I'll read my note from past Kevin and go, oh, that's right. I had these big tasks I had to finish, and I'll just start working on that now. And it's easier to just, like you said, talk into the phone and let the phone summarize it for me. Do you have plans to try to monetize that? Or is that more, again, a scratch your own itch?
So that one was to scratch my own itch. And here's the thing, right? In creating the first one, the daily tracker, I've got a boilerplate tooling now to build and ship SaaS that has authentication, authorization, menu management, and connected to an Azure SQL backend, so I can ship SaaS super quick now, right? I've got Stripe integration and social opinion that's in production, right? I can integrate payments into any of them. So there may come a point where I add one or two more things onto audio note. We'll see, maybe in the next 3 to 6 months, I'm not sure. But what's more impressive for me is I think they're going to commercialize the SaaS boilerplate toolkit, because, it's like sell the shovels and not go pan for the gold, that cliche. Because there are many developers who want to ship products, but they don't want to get bogged down in all of their infrastructure or the setup of the code and the solution. They just want to create the value that they think the market want. But hey, here is a SaaS toolkit in .NET in about very super simple. That's going to be my priority, I think, because the data is there now, right? I've got 2 mini series that show how these things have been built. Again, that's almost like a form of marketing, right? It's almost like I've built these things in public with the intent of pushing this toolkit. That wasn't the idea. That just happened, that by coincidence. So those are the general directions.
I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I have a friend, Andrew Culver. He had a SaaS boilerplate for Rails. It was called Bullet Train, and it was what you said. He had all the bits and pieces, and all you had to do was generate a new app on top of it. And so we spend so much time on ceremony. Create the new project. Let's set up the authentication. Let's set up, I don't know, talking back to our data stores. If you're doing anything with subscriptions, let's connect it to Stripe or whatever else. And that just takes so much time and energy. You forget about the actual idea that you wanted to implement.
Yeah.
And that's a great idea. You should totally do that.
Yeah, that was my thinking really, Mar, is that if this has been a pain for me, it's been a pain for somebody else.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got at least one idea. And the only way you're going to be able to validate that is you ship it quickly and get feedback quickly. You can't just build it and expect people to come if they're gonna. But by building and shipping something, you get some instant feedback. And if you can minimize that time to market by using a boilerplate toolkit, then you saved yourself a ton of work.
Right. Jamie, let's switch off of SaaS. I know you do some other stuff, some other digital products. I think you listed a bunch of them earlier. You do ebooks, courses for various providers. You want to just give us some general information about some other stuff that you do?
I'm a LinkedIn learning instructor, Pluralsight author, and Cloud Academy course creator, and self-published book on Gumroad, which is a marketplace and a door for creators where you can self-publish content. So I'd say 75 to 80%, maybe about 80% of my courses across all platforms and the ebook are centered around artificial intelligence using Microsoft AI, with the remaining 10-20% being on how to use the X developer platform, formerly known as Twitter API. So I think I've got 12 or 13 courses out at the minute. My most recent one was with Pluralsight, and that is how to develop a AI strategy for your organization, which is proven super popular right now, actually.
I'm sure.
Surprise, right? It's getting like 300 or 400 people taking each month, which blew me away, actually. But those are the other activities.
How do you make the decision between going with one of the providers like LinkedIn Learning or Pluralsight, or potentially self-publishing it yourself? What's intriguing about using the publishers versus just putting it out there on your own and collecting all the money?
Yeah. That's a good question, right? That's a really good question, man. I would say LinkedIn are big, Pluralsight are big. They're all big platforms, and they have the footprint and the presence in the community. I'm just one guy. Yeah. Hey, never say never, right? I do have an idea about an up and coming technology. I could create it, I could build it, I could ship it, but I've been through the marketing pain of building my own digital SaaS, and I know trying to get that awareness is super hard. But when you partner up with one of these big training providers, it makes it much more easier to reach the people that you want to reach with the message that you want them to receive. I think it's just a nicer on ramp to reach your people.
You do that enough times, you build your own audience larger, then maybe you can self-publish.
Yeah. Hey, maybe. They're self-published on Gumroads. I like a little, believe it or not, a Win Forms app, right? And an ebook. And the 2 ebooks, actually, I gave one for free, right? Gave away one for free. And then that was almost like a temp check on, is there a demand for this type of content? And I got quite a few bites. Thought, okay. So that was a litmus test. I wrote a second version with 4 new chapters plus full application source code. And I made a little bit of cash off of that.
There you go.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, that was nice. And I gotta tell you, man, like when you wake up and you've got that email and you've had to stay around in your sleep, that is the weirdest feeling. Because normally like your income's connected to, the pressing of the button. But when you wake up and you've got an email from Stripe or Gumroad, it's like, it's almost like an epiphany moment.
I'm in a group of entrepreneurs and we call it stranger money. So it's you go to sleep and you wake up and strangers just pay you for whatever you put out there. And it's the greatest money in the world.
It's a beautiful thing, man. And I guess it's valid. It's the ultimate validation, isn't it? You've created something with nothing but your time, your mind, and an internet connection. And somebody else somewhere around the world found value in that. And that's actually one of and this probably resonate with you and people who are listening to this, is that you can build something on a laptop, but you could even tether your data connection, build it, ship it, and somebody will pay you cash somewhere in the world for that thing. I mean, that will never not always amaze me.
Your Pluralsight course, the one on AI strategy, was that a topic that they brought to you or did you go to them?
So they came to me with that one, and I thought that'd be a great one to do. There's other times where I've suggested courses, and then it goes through the process, and sometimes they get accepted and sometimes they don't. And that's how that goes.
If you were looking to do a new course right now on whatever topic, would you try to send that to a Pluralsight, a LinkedIn, or try to do it on your own? If you don't want to choose, you can say no.
It's like trying to pick a favorite child. Like, I'm gonna sound like a politician, Kevin, but I like creating them for all of the platform. The technical content actually is creating the technical content and building the prototypes. So I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. And the other thing is that, and I'm a firm believer in this, is we really learn by doing, but to really internalize the content, the code, whatever it is. If you can teach that to somebody else in a concise fashion, that's when you know that you know it. And that's a big part of why I write regular blog. It's because it's almost like, you said earlier, like Kevin's notes from past self to future self.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I'll blog, because I'm like, I really want to remember this thing. And when I was doing a lot of conversational AI development, right? Sometimes I would find my own blogs on Bot Framework Composer. And that was like the weirdest thing. I was like, man, somebody must know this. But then I'm like, I've done this 5 years ago. It was me. Kind of embarrassing. But
that's happened to me more times than I can count as well. I'll search for something and realize I wrote the post that answers the question. I used to be smart. And then somewhere along the way, I just forgot everything I knew. I know before you went independent, you worked a full-time job, and you made the jump to going independent. I guess just kind of last conversation, what made you make that jump?
Yeah. So it's not my first rodeo. First time round, I had like personal reasons for doing it, family reasons, and then second time rounds, I just like I'm 45 this year, and they'll go fire in the belly, man. So I was like, I'm the sort of guy that's like, I cannot leave this stone unturned. I have to do this. And I think I can be quite industrious with that, whether shipping content or creating courses, or I just had to get the burn the fire in the tank, so to speak. I think there's some other aspirations and goals, right?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see how far I could go and take it, and equally like set up my kids for future, as well. Ultimately, aging mother, there's a whole bunch of different reasons, and this is the means. It's the only thing that I know that I'm reasonably good at, and so let's do it. Let's really put the pedal down, go into the red, and just keep. That's it basically.
What's the ideal end game for Jamie? Like, what is it? A product? Is it continue to do the consulting?
I keep doing what I'm doing, but maybe not to the intensity.
Okay,
Like
that's fair.
There's a balance to be had. I think there's a balance to be had. I'd maybe like to get more exercise in and focus more on that. I think, I don't know about you, right? But sometimes it feels like you're training your health, but you're a professional life, and vice versa. There's that friction. And in the last couple of years, I know like we've just been discussing all these other threads that I've been spinning, but I've taken my foot off like the gas with like some things, and I've tried to look at things in a more seasonal approach. So I've zoomed out a little bit at the macro instead. Well, the typical Brit here, but the weather's a little bit gloomy in the autumn or the fall and the winter months here. Let's really ramp up all the other little threads. See where they go for 6 or 7 months, but in the spring and the summer, cool them down a little bit, and enjoy maybe some of the later evenings and what have you. I think that's like almost like a healthier approach. But as I get older, as I say, more into the fitness side of things. I mean, what about yourself?
I agree. Really like working in the winter and the colder months where it's not nice to go outside. I don't mind working longer, more intensive days. And we're in our spring, we're going into our summer. It's very nice outside. I have other hobbies that involve being outside, and I really don't want to work. Like when we're done with this interview, I'm done for the day. I'm going to go outside. And I'm very much the same way. And I think it's healthy. I get burnt out very easily. And if I'm going 100% all the time, I eventually get to the point where I just burn out completely. I have to stop and I need to take a break. I'd like to avoid that. I'd rather just go 80, maybe 75% most of the time and not get burnt out. So like little things I've done is every day I have to do an hour and a half at the gym. I have to go lift heavy things.
Yeah.
And then come back and I feel refreshed. Like I'm tired, but I'm refreshed and I have a clearer mind, and I can be more, I think I'm more productive in the day if I get my workout in. I feel it on the days when I don't.
You know what, Ryan? I totally agree with that. Like I've got this is like a small shed, right? Something like a tiny office thing. And I got another one. I've got my gym gear in there. And the days I do a 5x5, and so I do it 3 times a week. And those are my best days. Yeah. It's a good you know what I'm talking about, man. That is, that kind of keeps me sane. I got a camper van as well, and I like to get away in nature, which is a good way to unplug.
Mm-hmm.
Fire pit, beer, whatever.
Yeah. If I can't work out, because I actually have to drive to my gym, but if I can't get to the gym, I will just take a walk around our neighborhood, and 30 minutes, fresh air, not on a screen. That's all I need. And I think more people should do that. Not enough. There's not enough outside time for us
For sure.
in these offices.
For sure.
All right. Jamie, any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
None from me. Just want to say thank you for inviting me on. Thank you to the listeners for viewing this. And I would just encourage anybody who has an idea and actually want to stretch, but they're maybe worried about getting it out into the world, just do it, man.
Yeah.
And see where it goes. Because you never know who might download it, view it, read it. Serendipity can be a good thing.
Even if it's bad, that means people are looking at it. So just take the feedback. And there are very few people out there that are just complete assholes. Like, most people are constructive and go, it's not your best. Maybe if you do something else instead, it can be better.
And you know what? Even if people are nasty, it's cool. It just wasn't for them.
They weren't going to pay you anything.
Nah.
All right, Jamie, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We're going to make sure we link to all your places so people can go, if they want to go learn how to build a boilerplate, they can go read your post on it.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, everyone, thank you for listening to the Multithreaded Income Podcast, and we'll see you again next week. Y'all take care. You've been listening to the Multithreaded Income Podcast. I really hope that this podcast has been useful for you. If it has, please take a moment to leave a review wherever you get your podcast from. And don't forget, the conversation doesn't stop here. Join us on our Discord at mti.to/Discord. I've been your host, Kevin Griffin, and we'll see you next week. Cha-ching!